Hello, my name is Summer Smith. I'm going to be the moderator for this particular session, which is the juvenile justice session. Share with you today, actually, I'm going to be sharing the prompting questions for this particular session. Each candidate may choose to address, all or part of the questions that are going to be shown. And you will each have 4.5 minutes to speak on this particular topic. And you can address all of the questions or one of the questions. It's your choice. The order of each speaker has been randomly assigned. If anyone watching has any questions they would like to ask, time permitting, please submit them to me in the chat box. This breakout session will be 30 minutes long, is being recorded, and will be posted on the League of Women Voters website for public viewing. At the end of 30 minutes, all participants will be brought back to the primary room while we will hear some closing comments. The prompted questions addressed in the session are oh my gosh. Explain to us your experience with the juvenile justice system and how it functions. Do you feel it is a fair system, and what do you feel could be improved? What can judges do to ensure youth are given fair consideration in this system? So I'll leave those questions up. And then the first person to start us off will be Melissa Lyons. Are you here, Melissa?
I'm here. All right, setting my timer so I can see.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, Melissa, go ahead and begin.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And so I'll go in order of the questions as shown. My experience with the juvenile justice system began with the DA's office. I served a year in juvenile at Eastlake Juvenile because our office does require us to do a rotation through a juvenile courthouse. And how it functions currently, however, as of about 6 months ago, I'm now the supervising deputy district attorney for Compton Juvenile Division, which gives sort of a different perspective of the juvenile system as a supervising DA than I had as a courtroom DA. In terms of how it functions, I mean, it's multiple departments sort of working with each other to come up with the best solutions for a minor. When a minor is arrested or cited, probation reviews, the probation department reviews that arrest report. They then make a detention report if they're detained, or they do a PPR report, which basically looks at the minor's background to some extent, looks at the facts of the case and makes recommendations based on that for the court to consider. The court can go with that recommendation, or the court can choose not to go with that recommendation. Unlike adult court, there is no jury at any point. There's no jury trial at any point. We do have what are called adjudications, but those adjudications, which are probably the closest thing to a trial, are essentially a court trial where the judge makes the decision on what happens with the minor. So obviously the judge's role is that of the trier of fact in making decisions on whether or not to sustain a petition, which is in adult court would be the equivalent of a conviction. So judges are very important in juvenile court because they have a lot more decision-making sort of power in juvenile court as compared to adult court. Do I feel it's a fair system? I think any system that involves human beings is gonna be unfair to some extent because people bring with them their various biases, and their biases affect how they how they make decisions, how they present information. And so those things on all levels, not just from the perspective of the judicial officer, but even from the perspective of witnesses, victims, the minor themselves. All those things affect, I think, the fairness of the system. I think the way that we improve that is continued education for decision makers, especially in the area of implicit bias. Ensuring that our decision makers understand where they have blind spots or make assumptions about the people that come into court, whether they be victims or defendants, and about the source of their behavior. But also, I think education with respect to understanding trauma and how it affects, thank you, how it affects a person's behavior, again, both for a victim as well as a defendant. When you can understand how sort of behavioral issues, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, family issues, and other forms of trauma sort of intersect in a person's life, and how it sort of colors their behavior, their ability to communicate. When you understand those things, you're able to make better decisions for everyone involved, and it'll inform how you take testimony from a witness as well, in terms of understanding a witness's behavior or a victim's behavior in a particular situation. So I think it kind of dovetails into that last question of what a judge can do. And I think the greatest thing a judge can ever do is educate themselves beyond the law, but also about people.
Okay, so next up we have Thomas D Allison. Thomas, are you in the room?
I am, thank you. If you don't mind, I'll get my clock going.
Yep.
All right, our kids, I believe our kids no longer have the right to be kids. I believe society should care about juvenile justice before something bad happens. I believe in a truly free and equal society. All youth have equal opportunity to access resources and success. One of my early experiences as an attorney was representing a 16-year-old girl in an attempted murder trial. She was charged as an adult. I saw the full weight of the system come full steam ahead at this teenager, and I was her only representation of justice in this process. I have represented youth in several cases, including possession of marijuana, robbery, and theft cases. In all of my cases, I reached agreements with the district attorney where my client paid restitution, did community service, had education stipulations, and other things, and their records were sealed. Most of the youth that I've represented have gone on to college. A few of them are on the path to becoming lawyers themselves. And this is because the primary goal of the juvenile justice system is rehabilitation. The parties are supposed to work to come up with the best disposition for the youth that would put them on a path to success rather than a life of crime. But we all know that the school to prison pipeline still rages forward. This is where I think the community comes into play. I do not believe our efforts for rehabilitation go far enough. I strongly believe in a teen court where minor cases are handled by the youth's peers. I believe in restorative justice, and I believe it should be an inherent part of every single case. This means taking a holistic approach to rehabilitation. There would be no adjudication in my version of juvenile justice. The youth would be assessed, provided wraparound services, and continue to make progress reports until it is clear they are fully rehabilitated. This might mean requiring them to get mentors. This might mean providing them with healthcare, transportation, and other personal needs that they have that would deter them from a life of crime. There's a concept called bounded rationality. And basically this concept means that we only act as good as we know our options are available to us. And I believe that our juveniles just don't have a broad enough perspective of what their opportunities are. I mean, we have kids who never even leave their neighborhoods. They have such a small perception of their world and their role in it. And I think that we can do far more to expand the bounds of their rationality so that they understand more that they have something to lose and that they are just as worthy of accomplishing great things, no matter their background, as their peers. And I think this first step in realization means that we have less chances of having bad things happen because our juveniles are more focused on accomplishing success. In my system, I think there should be more restorative processes where the juveniles actually interact with the victims. This way they have a better understanding of what they've caused, their role in society, and they're able to humanize people in a level that would make them second guess or second think ever creating another victim. Once they are rehabilitated, then the whole thing would just go away. There would be no such thing as sealing records.
1 minute.
There'd only be documentation of the fact that they have successfully completed rehabilitative services. And this could be something that can be used on a job or college application. I believe judges should be role models. I got to speak at Locke High School in Inglewood, and there are many challenged youth in this high school. They were so impressed and well-behaved during my session. And it had a lot to do with the fact that I shared life experiences with them and had the respect for them to come and talk to them and spend time with them. As a judge, I believe that the relationship with the youth should pre-exist any court case, and that judges should play roles as mentors to youth prior to adjudicating them guilty or not guilty. These are just a few of the examples and some of the experiences that I have with our juvenile justice system.
Thank you so much, Thomas. All right, we have Matthew Vodnoy is next.
Yes, hi, thank you. Hi, Matthew Vodnoy. I am running for seat 70, and my experience in the juvenile justice system was for about 14 months while I was a deputy district attorney. I worked every single day in a courtroom, running that courtroom and the juveniles that went through that courtroom and adjudicated them. I think that having that experience was an invaluable experience that actually was one of the most beneficial things I ever did as a deputy district attorney, because it really opened my eyes to some of the failures of our system. Now, I think Melissa Lyons gave you a great explanation of what the juvenile justice system is and how it functions, so I'm not going to get into that. What I will tell you, and the one thing that she said that I completely agree with and would want to emphasize, is that it is the bench officer that has all the power in these courtrooms. And that's why the juvenile courts are so different depending on which courtroom you are in. But one thing I did learn that is so important that we need to keep in mind is that the accountability matters. You can't just say to somebody, I'm going to take care of you and give you opportunities, and I'm going to make it so that you're fixed. And I'm not saying people can't be, because the whole point of the juvenile justice system is rehabilitation. And there are people that are success stories from juvenile that grow up to be great contributing members of our society. But there are people that go through that system, and when you work in that system every day, they know the difference between right and wrong, and they do wrong. And they need to know that they need to be held accountable. I'm not saying we need to punish them or put them away or throw them away like garbage. What I'm saying is, if you're a parent and you're running a juvenile justice system in your home like I do, if somebody doesn't listen or somebody takes a cookie that they're not supposed to, they're held accountable. If someone kills somebody that's 16 years old, they need to be held accountable. If somebody runs a red light going 150 miles an hour because their father bought them a Lamborghini and they just don't care, they need to be held accountable. If somebody is 17 years old and they go out with all of their gang member buddies and they kill people and rob them and carjack them, they need to be held accountable. That's the point of the juvenile justice system, not just rehabilitation, but accountability. We cannot teach our youth to respect the law and respect our culture if they are never taught that what they do is unacceptable and wrong. Now, I am 100% behind rehabilitation, offering services, all the things that I think would be great to help the Los Angeles County system. Our young people are clearly being left behind, and oftentimes in in some of the areas that don't have the same funding are left to their own devices. And when that happens, they don't have guidance and leadership, and they go and they do things they shouldn't be doing. And sometimes there are adults that are leading them astray. But what we don't do is say to those kids, it's okay, don't worry about it, never mind. We have to teach them that it's wrong. And unfortunately in the county and in the state of California, we don't fund the services that we need to fund to stop these things from happening in the first place. Things like after-school programs, hot meals, supporting families that need housing, supporting families that need money because they don't have work. There are all these things I think flow into the juvenile justice system when a young person comes in that has no family structure, educational structure, and they see things in their community going on that are the things that lead them astray. And we don't have the structure and the infrastructure to provide them safety, opportunity, and potential. Now, the juvenile justice system is not where that happens, but it can be part of the system that helps that happen. And what's important is to know that judges have the ability to take into account in the juvenile justice system way more than they do in the adult court system. Their schooling, their family, their background, everything is much more incorporated into the analysis. And that is not to be used as an excuse, but to be used as a point of evaluation. I am a firm believer that, I guess like Whitney Houston said, children are our future. And we need to make sure that the ones that need the support get it, that we don't throw them away like garbage. And I think the juvenile justice system has some of the things in place, but it can do better. And we can do better as a society. But what we can't do is tell them it's okay to commit crimes and it's okay to follow that path. But we need to give them the support and the help that they need. And that, if I was a judge in that system, what I would try to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. All right, next we have Keith Koyano. Are you here, Keith?
I am. Thank you, Summer. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keith Koyano. I'm running for seat 118. My experience with the juvenile justice system is a little bit different from my colleagues in that I served a year at what used to be the Kenyan juvenile justice system. I do like the approach that was followed in that courthouse, which unfortunately is no longer open. The approach that that courthouse took was to take all of the minors who had been charged with crimes within the Watts area, and if they were to be arrested on other charges, regardless of where those charges happened geographically, they would always be brought back to the Kenyan juvenile justice system, I should say the courthouse, with the idea being that the bench officers, the probation officers, the district attorneys, and the defense attorneys would know who the minor was and would get to know the particular needs of the minor. I think that that is a crucial and important characteristic of the juvenile justice system, in that the people that it encompasses are still being shaped. They're still growing. Their minds are still developing. And that development happens at different rates for every individual person. I think that judges who actually preside in the juvenile justice system have to have a wide breadth of experience to understand that. These judges need to have experienced different areas of the county, need to understand that different communities function differently, and that children and minors in different communities act differently. They respond differently. Given that, I think the juvenile justice system is properly geared first and foremost towards rehabilitation. I think that judges who preside in the system also need to have a firm understanding of when rehabilitation might not be a possibility, and the more appropriate function or remedy may transition into punishment. There is some point at which some minors do have the understanding of the culpability and the intent behind the crimes with which they're charged. And I think that, again, it is incumbent upon a judge to have the appropriate breadth of experience to make factual determinations and to actually care enough to listen to all of the evidence that's provided in making the proper decision for each individual minor. I have very specific experience with respect to a minor who committed a murder when he was 17. I'll just tell you that it was very heart-wrenching to speak with him because he ultimately became a witness for the people in a separate murder case. And what I saw in him was a remarkably sharp young man who was essentially no different than I, but for a stroke of luck in terms of where we grew up. I learned from him that rehabilitation is possible. As I watched him mature, I saw him arrange his own leniency agreement when his attorney dropped the ball. I saw him educate himself with respect to Senate Bill 260 and youth offender parole hearing eligibility. And I saw that change can be effectuated. I think that kind of experience is important in terms of what happens in the juvenile justice system, and that judges have to be cognizant of those differences. I look forward to your questions. I do think I have unique experience, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, next we have Leslie Gutierrez.
Hi, everyone. Similarly to Keith and Melissa, my experience with the juvenile system comes from being a deputy district attorney. I was in the juvenile system in Pomona for a year. The interesting part of being in Pomona is that we have a lot of the camps where the juveniles would be sent to in close proximity. So we would also get, in addition to crimes that were committed, in the community, we also had crimes that were committed within the camps themselves. I think the juvenile assignment is one of the most powerful assignment that you could have in the DA's office. We get the chance and the opportunity to really try to shape the youth and try to get them completely out of the system. The goal of the system as the juvenile system is rehabilitation. And we work in conjunctions with social workers, with probation officers. It's a group effort. We have county council that also comes to the hearing. We work really as a team with the public defender to try to figure out what we can do to help these people, to help these kids, so that they actually get on the right path and do not enter the adult system. Most of the time it is effective. We have good programs for them. Sometimes it's not. And I've had the misfortune of having defendants in the adult sides that I had as minors in the juvenile system. And it's always, really sad to see that the system has failed. But we also need to take in consideration whether or not they wanted to be helped and whether or not they were helped. I'm so sorry. My throat is burning. We have to, really try to help people, but they also need to want to be helped. And sometimes I had a kid who was, 12 years old, and he was part of a family who were gangsters, and he was himself, a gangster, and, it was hard. But, we had to understand that this was his family path. And as much as we were trying to help him, he kept coming back. And the last time that I had him, he had assaulted someone in the bus from camp and tried to strangle him with his handcuffs. So, he had to be held accountable as well. The juvenile system, as Melissa has said, is like any other system. When you have human behaviors and human beings, we're going to have mistakes. So it's as fair as it can be. But there are issues, and there are issues also with the laws, where a 16-year-old in the juvenile system, if he's charged with a strike offense, will carry that strike offense in the adult system, but they don't get the benefit of actually having a jury trial. And that's something that I believe should be done. We should have jurors in the juvenile system if the juvenile wants it. The issue is that those hearings are confidential, so it would be a tough way or a tough job to try to have jurors come in, because they would have to be bound by confidentiality, and we all know how that works when we have human beings. But when you're 16 and over, and you get a strike in juvie, it's going to be a strike as an adult as well. So if there is an offense that's committed in the adult court, unlike the other offenses that are sealed, this one will not be. We will be able to see that you have it, and it will be used in the adult case to make your sentence longer. So, you know, there are issues with any system. That's one of them that I see with the juvenile system. Obviously, judges can do a lot to be fair. They can listen to the needs of the children and the minors that we have in court. They can try to find the right programs, and you know, they can instill change within the kids as well, within the system.
Great, thank you, Leslie. So we do have a little bit of time left in this particular breakout session. I wanted to give each speaker or presenter a 1-minute opportunity for any closing or responsive remarks. It could be to anything anybody else said, or it could be, you know, based on whatever topic you feel like you would like to finish out. We'll start again, have Melissa Lyons come back on. Melissa, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Perfect.
In terms of closing commentary, I think the best that I can say in the context of judicial officers and choosing judicial officers and understanding their role, I think it's important to have judicial officers, whether in the juvenile system or otherwise, that are committed to making good decisions and making good decisions by understanding the people that are in front of them. I think whether we are in, like the juvenile system is, one that is focused on rehabilitation, or one that is more focused, as the adult system is a little bit more focused on a penalty and punishment, I think it's incumbent on a judge to understand the people that are before them, and that comes through interaction with people from, you know, all over, from different walks of life, and educating yourself, again, outside of the law. I think that is critical for a judge to do.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, next we have Thomas D Allison.
You know, I'm just going to speak honestly. When it comes to youth, I don't like the fact that we're so quick to go to the youth that need to be held accountable, or don't want services, or not able to be rehabilitated. There are so many kids and youth who can be rehabilitated, who needs the right services, but we don't talk about them. We go straight to holding our youth accountable. And I think that's a disservice for our community and our youth. As judges, I think we need to be poised to do what is best for our community. And that means being open to treating our youth for exactly who and what they are. Our youth, they deserve a chance, accountability, of course, but they deserve a chance. And that's why I think our conversation should be not just about keeping the same things the same things. Thomas Allison for judge.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. All right, next we have Matthew Vodnoy.
Thank you. I may be interrupted by my dog, who would like to make my closing statement for me. But the truth of the matter is, it's somewhere in between accountability and rehabilitation. There is not one solution to every single case and every single young person that goes through that system. Some of them will benefit from rehabilitation. I wish it was every single one of them, but some will not. I wish there were enough services to give every single one of them the services that they deserve in our society, but we don't have those resources allocated. And so we have to know, as a system, Barkley, we have to, as a system, as a bench officer, understand the difference. And that's why, when I said earlier, the bench officer has all the power and is the most important person in that courtroom, I mean it, because they're the ones that are ultimately going to decide the future of these young people that come through these courts, whether it's going to be one or the other and what's the right fit. And hopefully, I hope for all of us that the juvenile justice system is not even necessary, but for now it is.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, next we have Keith Koyano.
Thank you, Summer. I think the most important thing for a judge in the juvenile justice system is to listen. That's important for any judge, but very, very important for a juvenile justice judge because of the change that can be effectuated through the juvenile justice system and because of the long-lasting effects that decisions that a judge makes can have. Those decisions have to be based on solid experience with a wide range of people from a wide range of communities so that justice within the juvenile system is applied fairly across the entire county and regardless of socioeconomic status or geography. I think that what's important for your candidate is to have that life experience with which to make the appropriate decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, next we have, to close us out, Leslie Gutierrez.
I agree with what's been said by my colleagues. Obviously, you need people who have the right experience. As deputy district attorneys, we've been in the juvenile system for every day for an entire year. And I don't agree when I hear that the goal is accountability all the time. We've been trying for years to provide services to youth and to try to rehabilitate them. Now, when there are people who keep coming back and committing violent offenses with weapons or murders or attempted murders or violent acts upon others, then there is a need for accountability and there is a need for the criminal justice system to be there and hold this individual accountable for their actions. So that's when judges have a role. They get to decide what placement to send people to. Do we give them another chance? Did we put them on probation? Did we add an ankle monitor? Do we send them to camp? And if we do send them to camp, for how long? And do we look at whether it's working or not? So judges have a lot of tools at their
Thank you, Leslie.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
All right, that closes up our breakout room session. I'm going to stop the recording and we will all go back to the main room to hear final closing comments. Thank you so much for participating this evening, and we will see you in the main session.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone was able to get a lot out of tonight's program. And on behalf of the Junior League of Long Beach and the League of Women Voters, we'd like to thank you for attending tonight's forum and learning more about the judicial candidates. We will follow up with all of the attendees via email with the linked videos of tonight's forum when they are posted and made available to the public. Please feel free to share with your friends, family, and professional networks. I'd also like to give a special thanks to all of our judicial candidates tonight for joining, and I hope you found this to be fruitful. I know there's not a lot of these types of forums for judicial candidates, and so we're very excited that you were all able to join us. Please follow us on social media. You can visit jllb.org to learn more about the Junior League of Long Beach and lwv.org to learn more about the League of Women Voters. And again, thank you all so much for attending. We hope you have a wonderful evening.